I am not prepared to sit on our laurels. We have to continue to be vigilant and diligent and continue to operate with as much integrity in this area as humanly possible. Therefore, when I introduced the budget and indicated that we may end up having to cut 140 police officers, that was a very difficult situation, but let me tell you how we got there. As I indicated earlier, with $103 million left in the general fund, if you hold harmless police, fire, and you take care of our debt needs, you're only left with 103. You can't take 83 out of 103. Last year, we kept uniformed police outside of any cuts. This year, that becomes extremely impossible. Now, do I think or hope that we will have to cut 140 police officers? No. I have worked tirelessly and have gone to Washington on several occasions, met directly with the Attorney General, with the top staff at the Justice Department, and with every grantee related to the Justice Department, including the COPS program, the JAG program, and the Burns program, trying to make the case that Oakland is a poster child for what it is they're trying to do with the COPS program. The COPS program, COPS, stands for Community-Oriented Police Services, not cops in the sense that we tend to use the word. And so I've tried to make the case very strongly and very diligently to them that we are indeed a poster child for what they're trying to do. This is a community that has embraced the concept of community policing, has embraced the concept of geographic accountability, has embraced the idea of problem-solving officers. Interesting, the Justice Department was very intrigued with the whole concept of problem-solving officers and moving from there to an even stronger concept of community policing. The point I tried to make to them and that I would make to you that makes our lives complicated here in Oakland with respect to the police is the connection to Measure Y. As many of you recall, Measure Y calls for 63 problem-solving officers, 6 of them supervisors. What triggers the expenditure of the Measure Y funds is that we always in the city have to be funded at the level of 739 police officers out of the general fund. If you reduce the number of 739 police officers even by 1, you then no longer have access to the Measure Y funds, not only for the 63 problem-solving officers, but for the prevention programs, as well as the fire department. So the way Measure Y was written, and you can determine the efficacy of that, but the way it was written, that 839, if you don't have 839 police officers, you can't fund the prevention programs, you can't fund the 63 problem-solving officers, and you can't implement the guidelines with respect to the fire department. So this is triggered. So I had to go back there and explain this in great detail to them so that we desperately need the federal government to assist us to the maximum extent possible with respect to the COPS program, giving us resources so that we don't have to end up cutting these 140 police. If your question is, am I optimistic about that? I have to remain optimistic, but the fact of the matter is twofold. One, there's $1 billion designated for the COPS program, and the other day I learned that they were oversubscribed to the tune of $8.3 billion. So people around the country requested funds at $803 billion for a pot of $1 billion. So it's very clear at the outset that whoever laid out the $1 billion figure was way off the mark in terms of the needs of the country, the economic impact upon the cities, and the potential for cutting police, which then equals compromise in public safety. Secondly, they anticipated approximately 1,800 grant requests. They received over 3,600. So again, this is an indication that this program was grossly underfunded given the needs of the country. So one of the things that I am contemplating and that I will act upon, and that is in my role as a member of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, I'm going to ask the mayors to join forces in one voice and communicate to President Obama's administration that we request that they look at the range of recovery dollars, because there's a lot of money out there, to find several $billions to expand the funding base of the COPS program. It clearly is grossly inadequate on a national basis. Now, the other point that I wish to make is that in the $1 billion, half of it is mandated to go to cities 150,000 and below. So Oakland is not competing for $1 billion. Oakland is competing in a pot of $500 million. So it even reduces things even further. But that notwithstanding, my sense of my meetings with the appropriate people in the Justice Department is that they understand the intricacies of what we're trying to do. They understand that the city of Oakland, in its effort to embrace problem solving and community policing, we could end up being harmed. So the point I was making to them was, any kind of way we can save 140 police officers, you're actually saving 203 police officers, because it's the additional 63 that you don't have access to with respect to Measure Y. So we'll see where we are. They indicated to me that they have moved up the time frame. As you know, President Obama a few days ago came public and said we need to get these recovery dollars on the streets faster. And so in my meeting with the Justice Department people and all the grant makers, they indicated that their effort was to make these announcements sometime in July. Now, initially, they were talking about September, but apparently they've truncated that process. So we'll know sometime in July where we are. The final thing that I would like to say, and it's sort of a segue into my final point, and then I'd like to open up for any questions. Look, Oakland residents are aware of the fact that we're operating in a significant economic downturn. And we have to get through this budget process as diligently and as cooperatively as we possibly can. And I believe at the end of the day, we will come, the council will enact a balanced budget that, you know, we will live with and go forward with. What's important is another factor, and that is that there are several $100 billion on the table in the Federal Recovery Act as we speak. And therein lies what I believe to be Oakland's future and Oakland's potential destiny. We have this power to use these resources to develop community-oriented problem-solving strategies and economic development strategies to move us forward in this significant downturn, whether that's dealing with people who are losing their homes, people who need weatherization, people who need jobs, people who need training, people who need the full range of services. This was my message to the federal government, and I think I can say to you without fear of any contradiction that it was extremely well received.